On December 21st, 1943, a military plane was flying high over the icy mountains of Alaska. Suddenly, its engine failed. The plane crashed. Out of the 5 men on board, only one survived. And for the next 81 days, he was completely alone, in one of the coldest, wildest places on Earth. That man was Leon Crane, a young American pilot. He was just 27 years old at the time, serving in World War II. On that day, Leon and his crew were flying a routine test flight over Alaska. The weather was terrible, clouds everywhere, freezing cold, and poor visibility. They were flying at 20,000 feet, trying to navigate, when suddenly, disaster struck. The aircraft experienced an unexpected engine failure. Within seconds, it entered an uncontrolled descent from cruising altitude. The plane dived straight down at 300 miles per hour and crashed, completely breaking apart. In a final, frantic radio call, the pilots reported that their aircraft was breaking apart mid-air. But amidst the chaos, they couldn't give their exact location. The plane crashed near a remote mountain and was completely destroyed. Incredibly, only one man survived, the pilot, Leon Crane. Leon Crane was an American pilot serving during the Second World War. At the time, he and his crew were stationed in the U.S. state of Alaska. Leon was the sole survivor, saved by what many would call sheer luck. But his ordeal was only beginning. What followed was a test of human endurance that's still remembered to this day. This was Alaska, a vast and rugged state in the far northwest of the United States. It's a land of extremes, where dense forests, snow-covered mountains, rocky terrain, and wild animals define the landscape. Scattered across this wilderness are indigenous communities whose ancestors have lived here for thousands of years. Though it's the largest state in America by area, Alaska is home to just around 700,000 people. The year was 1943. At that time, this part of Alaska was a vast, empty wilderness. Leon Crane had survived the plane crash, but now he found himself surrounded by endless snow in every direction. There wasn't a single soul in sight for miles. He had no food, no supplies, and no idea where he was. He was near a river and decided to follow it. Leon had just 3 things with him: a knife, 2 matchsticks, and his parachute. Water wasn't a problem, but he had no food, and the freezing cold made survival even more difficult. For the next 9 days, Leon survived by using his matchsticks to light fires and sleeping wrapped in his parachute for warmth. Desperate for food, he tried to catch squirrels, but every attempt failed. In the vast, frozen wilderness, he didn't see a single living soul. For 9 days, Leon survived on nothing but water. Even that wasn't easy. The river was frozen, and he had to break through the ice to collect what little he could drink. But after 9 days without food, the effects were taking their toll. Leon was growing dangerously weak. Each day, Leon walked several miles, holding on to the hope that he might stumble upon another person, or perhaps a village or outpost. But day after day, he found nothing. Then, on the 9th day, a glimmer of hope appeared. Half buried in snow, he spotted a small cabin in the distance. When Leon stepped inside the cabin, he was stunned. Despite its remote location, it had a small bed, a table, and even a stove. But the real surprise was what he found next. Food. There was sugar, powdered milk, and even some canned goods. A rifle, a tent, and other survival supplies were also stored inside. It was an unexpected lifeline in the middle of nowhere. But whose cabin was this, in such a remote and isolated place? In Alaska, hunters often built small cabins like this one to use as shelter during long trips. This particular cabin belonged to a hunter named Phil Burrell. He had stocked it well with supplies, and Leon Crane was incredibly lucky to have found it. Leon spent the night in the cabin, grateful for warmth and a bit of food. But he knew he couldn't stay long. Supplies were limited, and time was running out. He had to find civilization soon, or risk dying in the wilderness. The next day, he set out once again, searching for any sign of life. But after hours of walking through the frozen landscape, he found nothing. Exhausted and defeated, he returned to the cabin. Over the next few weeks, this small shelter became his lifeline. With just enough food and a place to sleep, the cabin was now his only hope for survival. During his time in the cabin, Leon also found a map of Alaska. It was a game changer. With it, he could finally get a sense of where he was and where his plane had gone down. For the first time since the crash, he had a rough idea of his location and the direction he needed to go to reach civilization. As Leon studied the map, he spotted a village far from his current location. It was called Woodchopper. Determined to reach it, Leon packed what little food he had, took the map, and set out. Along the way, he came across several more cabins, similar shelters built by local hunters, just like the one that had saved his life. It was the 12th of February. It had been 50 days now since Leon had been wandering in this place. Leon was now focused on one goal, reaching the village of Woodchopper. He carried food and essential supplies, trudging through deep snow with a heavy load on his back. At one point, the ice beneath him gave way, and he plunged into freezing water. In that moment, he knew that even a few more minutes trapped could mean death. But through sheer luck and determination, Leon managed to pull himself out. After nearly a month of walking through the frozen wilderness, Leon Crane finally saw another human being. It had been 81 days since the crash, 81 days alone in the snow-covered wilderness of Alaska. He had walked roughly 190 kilometers through freezing conditions. The man he met was Albert Ames, who was staying in a cabin with his family. When Leon shared his story, Ames was stunned. He told Leon that the village of Woodchopper was still 50 kilometers away. Without hesitation, he placed Leon on his dog sled and took him the rest of the way. When Leon finally reached the village, he was met with yet another surprise. He found the very hunter, Phil Burrell, whose cabin had saved his life weeks earlier. Leon personally thanked him for unknowingly providing the shelter and supplies that helped him survive. He was taken for a medical checkup, and to everyone's amazement, he was in remarkably good health. His parents were soon contacted, and they received the news they never thought they'd hear. Leon was alive. Surviving 81 days in the snow and freezing wilderness of Alaska became one of the most remarkable survival stories of World War II. After the war, Leon Crane retired from the Air Force and pursued a career in aeronautical engineering. He made significant contributions to helicopter design and also established a successful construction business. His incredible journey was later documented in the book, 81 Days Below Zero. If you enjoyed this incredible story, hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories like this.